And we're back. When the Preacher Games, the podcast about what's new and awesome in 3D printing for gaming. I'm one of your hosts, Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Param, and I'm joined by
Kristen Sowards, also known as Seventh Mastery.
Kristen. This has been a really slow news week for 3D printing. It's been a whole 2 weeks since our last episode. We had to take the last episode off because of the holidays.
Yep.
But then it's like, oh boy, 2 weeks and Elegoo hasn't made a new printer. What's going on with that?
It's actually even been slow for Kickstarters, but there is one coming up.
Anycubic did announce a printer.
Yeah.
The M5 instead of the M5S.
Yep.
Which is like the M5, but slow. But not that much slower. So it's got the same 10-inch screen at the M5 has, and it's got it doesn't have the auto leveling thing, but some of the YouTubers that have been playing with the M5S saying hey, that auto level thing actually kind of makes your prints not so great. So maybe we don't do that.
Interesting.
At least not yet. And so it goes back to the 4-point level system.
And sorry, Anycubic having a technical issue. We are not a hit piece on Anycubic, but sometimes I feel like it.
I mean, no, we were just talking about their printers and their features, and the auto leveling doesn't seem to be. It seems to work good. It seems to work, but maybe it causes a little bit of problems.
Yeah.
So it has the traditional build plate, and it just uses standard NFEP or ships with standard NFEP instead of the others.
Okay.
And then it's not designed to do laser lightning fast prints, seems to be the trend lately.
Price point?
Don't know the price point. Sorry.
That's okay. I think it's interesting because I noticed Elegoo sent out a sale notice. The dates were conspicuous, and I was like, wait a second, this is just Prime Day sales, isn't it?
Yeah, Prime Day is going on, so this is a really good time to get a 3D printer, honestly. If you haven't ordered a 3D printer yet, or you want to do an upgrade, maybe go check out the Prime Day deals. I kind of hate treating Prime... I hate how consumerist Prime Day is. The YouTubers and all the content creators are getting on there and be like, ha ha ha, super cheap everything. You can get a computer for $10 off what it usually costs, because these Prime Day deals are never actually really great deals.
Yeah. I was actually pricing a new tower, so I've been looking at it too.
Ooh, new computer.
Yeah, I need to. The other day,
what you need to do? You just need to 3D print your tower.
That sounds like an FDM job, and we know how that goes for me.
Yeah, it would be absolutely an FDM job. I can't imagine resin printing an entire computer. But think about all the customizations you could do.
Right? And I could probably succeed at doing the resin printer one. I don't know if it's funny that I'm better at the goo. That's the weird thing, because all my local friends who are into 3D printing are all FDMers, and they love it, and they can print anything, new handles for machines, and they print pieces for their CNC machine on their FDM, and then they use their CNC machine to print something, to cut something for this and do this. It's like this craft circle of life going on that I just can't manage. I can't do it.
I'm getting more and more into the FDM side of things. It's got so many great uses, and a lot of people are like, hey, resin's the future. And I kind of think resin is the future ultimately when we get it down right, and
until something is really
cheap enough, machines get big
enough, right?
Yeah. I mean, maybe we get to the point where we're all shooting lasers into moon dust, and that's how we 3D print. That'll be great. But the FDM is really great because really good precisional accuracy, nice tough components, nice big print beds.
It is nice to pull that off the print bed and basically just be able to go prime it. Just go. That is nice.
Chevalier saying, saw a really cool Borg Cube PC tower. Yeah, that's really great. Linus Tech Tip has a whole video on 3D printing a computer case, but it's more like a test bench in the end.
Right.
Which is an open air computer.
Cool. That's
Roberto says the best PC they've ever seen is the Beaver PC. I have not seen the Beaver PC. I do not know anything about it.
I am intrigued and somewhat nervous.
Yeah. So what have you been into? What have you been printing, Kristen?
Well, I fell down a kind of a rabbit hole. I have
Ooh.
mentioned that on and off I have been working on the latest birthday present ever,
Mm-hmm.
which is an Illithid adventure set for my friend who's been running an Underdark Forgotten Realms campaign. And his big bads are Illithids. And so I keep asking him, have you got to him yet? And of course it's D&D, and the true scheduling enemy. The enemy is scheduling. We know this in D&D.
Right, absolutely.
They haven't really, they've had like one game a month. And so they aren't even close to these big bads yet. And so I still have more time to get this all together. So I've been working on the side of the Mind Flayers, which I adore as bad guys, only as bad guys. But Mind Flayers. And then I was like, well, we're kind of grognards, and I want, yes, of course, tentacles. Alex says, yes, well, me, tentacles, it's true. And I get to do the hive brain thing, which I've already done one of, but I'm going to do a different one for him because he is super old school. And so you got to have Umber Hulks with your Mind Flayers. And so I started going through all the Umber Hulk minis that are out there, and there are a ton. I narrowed it down to 3. Dragon Trapper's Lodge has a very nice, very insect forward Umber Hulk that actually kind of looks like it could fly. Maybe it's pretty neat. I think it's even called like Insect Hulk or something. There is a very classic looking, googly-eyed Umber Hulk from Epic Minis, which is what I kind of want, because to me, the Umber Hulks kind of boil down to their claws and their confusion gaze. So you need big googly eyes. Yep, isn't it beautiful? Look at those wings. That is neat. It's looks like it's like a rhino beetle with like big claws, and then it has the spread beetle carapace on the back with the wings. It looks like it could fly, maybe jump, maybe it's just like a jumper with like an wing assisted jump there. The Epic Mini, on the other hand, is very classic. It looks much more crab like. It's got the classic googly the eyes that are like faceted, which are the confusion gaze on the Umber Hulk, if you're familiar with the monster from D&D. And then they're like breaking through walls. They're very dungeony looking minis. They're very classic looking. Yes, that's the ones. And so I got those all on bases and set that up. That's going to be for him. But the third thing I saw, I wanted for me. And these Umber Hulks are actually from Lord of the Print, and they are gorgeous. I think your sound went out, by the way. But yeah, they are gorgeous minis. Oddly, though, they don't really look like they have eyes. As far as I can tell, if the eyes are there, they are under the hood of the carapace, maybe like a crawdad or something. Yes, but I love these. So yeah. I wanted to print a set of those Umber Hulks for myself.
Yes, these are. Then I realized these are the absolute best ones.
Yeah, they're awesome. But then I realized I have a big alien bug looking thing, and I have a psychic alien Mind Flayer, and I was like, you can totally do like an OPR hive alien army, but use Mind Flayers and make it skinned to look like a Mind Flayer army. But it could be an alien hive army. And so, of course, what have I started doing? I've started matching Mind Flayer monsters and Phoenix Scourges and the little like brain intellect devours and all that stuff. And I've been like trying to like match them up so that I can get this Mind Flayer themed hive fleet, which is funny because of course I already have lots of alien bugs. I've always been a Tyranid boy. And with Leviathan coming out, all these guys that are buying their Space Marine armies are giving away Tyranid armies that they don't want or selling them on the cheap. And so the biomass of the Tyranid Legion has increased, and there are so many new Tyranid players. It's just...
There is never a cheaper army in all of Warhammer than the non-Space Marine half of the starter box.
Right? It is amazing. Yes, there's just so many. The chat is going wild with the Tyranid jokes.
Yeah,
But
so we've got David is asking Herberto, who's in chat, Herberto Val, asking Umber Hulk Magical Girl win, and then Herberto replying with laughter, then Illithid Magical Girl, I will punish you and your mind.
I mean, I will buy and scream from the top of any building you'd like if you make a set of magical girls that are themed off of these monsters for sure. Though now I wonder if Adam will hear it and beat you to it from Twin Goddess, because he would probably do it too.
That would just fit into Adam's normal sets, though.
Actually, he might even already have a really cute Illithid girl. Mm-hmm. Yes, free minis, David. I just keep running into people that are either giving away or selling those Tyranid armies, half the Leviathan boxes, pretty cheap.
Yeah, and Leviathan evidently has been really hard to get a hold of. Like it sold out stupidly fast online for pre-orders.
Unless you go to one of the stores around here that has like 6.
That's always the way, isn't it?
Yeah,
the local stores always seem to get some, but
I feel like
none of my local stores ever get any. Like right. I never, not that I was really all that particularly interested in dropping $300 on Games Workshop models. I mean, have 3D printer, don't play Warhammer. Why would spend fortune on plastic?
True. Alberto did mention he did a wonderful set of Magical Girls. He did. Absolutely. You also do Magical Girls, though. There's lots of Magical Girls that are wonderful. David says, if anybody is giving away their Leviathan half of their Tyranid army, he'll take them. So would I, even though I already have so much gray to paint. Anyway, what are you working on?
So mostly I'm working on making sure other people get 3D printed minis. It was OPR launch week, so
yeah,
very busy param.
It's a good set though. That big mummy guy, is neat looking.
Everybody's loving the giant mummy. Our legendary this month is this like skeletal titan for the mummified undead, and it's this like humongous like absolutely massive skeleton just bursting out of bursting out of the sands, and it's just crazy how good it looks. And the second I saw the concept art for this like months ago, I was just like, holy goodness. And it's like definitely like all the ads and stuff we've been putting up, like everybody's just replying like how much they want to print it. And I've actually seen some fans have started to print some of it, so it's been fun to watch.
Cool.
All that get put out there. And
yeah, look at that boy. He's so big. He's so big. It's only half of him. He's like crawling up out of the sand, and he's got like this cool, like it looks like sort of like probably a golden chest head plate on his skull. These big scare bracers and skulls everywhere.
Yeah. There's like all kinds of tomb bits and sarcophagi and stuff like scattered around the base and all of that.
Yeah. If somebody dropped that on the table in a D&D game in front of me, I would be terrified.
Oh my gosh, it would make like an awesome like humongous set piece encounter for any sort of cool D&D game.
Yeah. Herberto says, "Oh man, Skeleboss, is that a big health bar? You're happy to see me."
Herberto. Okay, you win. Show's over.
That's what I say. Internet is won today. All points to Herberto.
Yeah. But as far as gaming, I've been like completely separate from 3D printing gaming. I've been falling into. First, I was like doing this like retro gaming rabbit hole that I was falling down into, but I was more interested in restoring broken consoles. So I got a busted up Game Boy Advance SP and got some parts for it, and noticed that you could 3D print some parts for it, and so that was like fun. I haven't done any of the mods that require the 3D printed parts yet, but like replacing the power adapter with USB-C requires a 3D printed part.
Oh, neat. I didn't even know that was a thing. I guess there's people who can figure out anything, but
yeah. But then that led me down playing Pokemon in a rabbit hole, and then building competitive Pokemon teams, which is like this horrible rabbit hole I don't recommend anybody fall into, because if you don't know what EVs and IVs are, count yourself blessed.
Huh.
And
I know what EVs are.
And not EVs. Not those EVs.
Oh.
Effort values and intrinsic values.
Oh, no, then I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So
James
like
says,
it's this ridiculous nonsense that Game Freak and Nintendo made like literally children's first RPG. Like this is like a RPG made for children, okay?
mm-hmm.
And then boom, in under the hood, rigged it with like one of the most insane and grindy and math heavy metagames that's
Ew.
completely hidden from players until in the game.
Ew.
And so if you want to compete at the top end of Pokemon online tournaments and stuff, you have to understand this, that like each Pokemon has like effort values that they get just through naturally fighting and beating other
I thought it was
Pokemon.
about
And then
matching types. Are you telling me I played that game wrong?
types are important. It's just like this. It's like Pokemon's got this like humongously deep stat system
Sure.
underneath it that you do not need to interface with at all if you're just casually playing through the games and collecting
Sure.
all the Pokemon. But
Mm-hmm.
like the second you want to like bring your squad into an online match, if you don't have like really optimized, don't understand these systems, then you're just going to get curb stomped by somebody's like maxed out Pidgeotto or
I'm
some
going to be
nonsense.
like a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
James says we should print game consoles, but then we'd have to go with his previous comment about solving all the brittleness of your resin. So
But I am noticing like there is a ton of really cool 3D printed mods and stuff for retro gaming,
mm-hmm.
like for the 8-bit though fight stick, which is
Mm-hmm.
like a really great fight stick that I use to play like Street Fighter 6 a lot right now.
Mm-hmm.
And like one of the big um trends in fighting games is to not use sticks but to use hit pads, which are basically like all button controllers, because then
Right.
you have super precision on exactly what inputs are being inputted when. And so
Huh.
there's like 3D printable mods and stuff to like replace that joystick in the 8-bit dough thing with like a set of arrow keys, hit pad style, so that
Huh.
like it's an all button controller. And then there's like whole controllers and arcade stuff you can 3D print, and there's like this wild rabbit hole. And then of course I was thinking about, I'm really digging this Pokemon, and we just unlocked this custom force builder. Why don't I just like for one page rules? Why don't I stat up like a Pokemon themed army, and then
There are 2 sets from Mini Monster Man.
yes, exactly, because I saw those sets. I'm like, what if I do off-brand Pokemon, and then like I could marry my two loves together, painting and playing miniatures, and grinding out this Dragonite into like a perfect competitive beast, and then have some fun with it.
But then you need like a leveling mechanic for your OPR stuff.
No, none of that nonsense. No.
No.
Which is honestly like even in the competitive scene, the leveling doesn't matter because it automatically sets your levels when you compete.
When you do a PvP, I guess
So
it does.
what only matters is that deep level stats that they don't tell you about until the
That's
end of the game.
fascinating. That is fascinating.
Yeah. But
Well,
ironically,
Mhm.
the newest Pokemon game, Scarlet and Violet, takes place in a college, so you can take Pokemon college classes that teach you this stuff now, which is like the first time they've had a good tutorial for it.
Weird. So you saying this has also reminded me. I've also been playing some video games. Magic streaming has been a thing for me. So if you're really bored, you can go check that on TikTok. But same username. However, Final Fantasy 16.
Oh gosh, I want to play that so bad.
I'll tell you. Okay, it's a gorgeous game. It's beautiful, but the minis that this is going to inspire, I am so hyped for it. The icons, because of course the summons always get a weird name. The icons is what they're called in this one, and they are kaiju. They are freaking. They're even bigger than the ones that are in Final Fantasy 15 if you played it.
Okay.
And they're massive monsters, and you get to play them. I'm not going to say anything else spoilery about it, but you get to play it, and it's crazy, epic scale battle stuff, and the world is gorgeous. The world building is gorgeous. The monsters are cool. Like all the Final Fantasy staples are getting reimagined in it, and I want the clone, because someone's going to do it. Someone. Maybe in the chat right now, but probably, we're going to see a couple Final Fantasy 16 inspired mini sets, and I am
really
already hype for it because They're
Well, I
cool
know
monsters.
that Line Tower Minis has like a Final Fantasy set that's not based off of 16, but has like an absolutely colossal sized Ifrit.
Yeah. Well, uh, the that set, the one because you got it right, and you modded some for your halflings, right, with the
Yeah.
chocobos.
Mm-hmm.
So that set also is like perfect for the Type Zero world. I don't know if you've played
Mm-hmm.
Type Zero; it's one of my favorites actually. But Rick Grayson is asking us, "Hey guys, silly question: Are there STLs for the common Marvel and DC?" Okay,
Absolutely.
tons. And there are a couple pay subs that give them. Trying to remember, is it C23? I'm trying to remember the name of the
I
Patreon.
don't know. Like I don't do go down that particular set of rabbit holes.
But mostly, Rick, you're gonna want to go to like probably Colts and look for like fan steals.
So also like that sort of mixes with a thing with like Marvel, like in DC, are like really cool about fan art and
Mhm.
monetizing fan art.
Mhm.
And for and a lot of this 3D printed stuff um, falls would fall under that, like Patreon supported 3D printing stuff falls
Right,
under
right.
that category. So like
So
it's ironically one of the few places where you don't see like the big giant DMCA
right, right. It's actually
hammers.
surprisingly cool because I see all sorts of stuff.
Mhm.
Rick says, getting back into Icons and Eminem. Wow, that is two awesome games. Also, both by Steve Kinson, who is amazing. But two some cool Supers games. I don't know how I could pick between the two of them if someone was willing to run them both.
Yeah. But if there's any superhero you want, you might want to look for statues and then scale them down.
That's also great advice. Yeah,
Yeah.
dropping them down. I just wish there were still, and I say this all the time, more generic superheroes. I end up going to like RNA Studio and using a lot of their anime sets for my superheroes when I'm making superhero minis,
Mm-hmm.
because you can kind of paint them up and push them in a superhero direction. But I want more. Rick says he's
Yeah,
my hero, but I'm not sure who he is. Anyway,
I am really surprised that there are not more. Like I'm surprised like there's not more superhero support in like Hero Forge or one of those things. Like considering like how popular like DC Universe Online is, and like all these different things that let you customize superheroes, and the old City of Heroes
yeah,
thing, of
James just
course,
said City
James
of
was talking
Heroes.
about. Yeah,
City Heroes
like
Fig Builder would be
I am
neat.
so surprised that there's not more support for that out there. And also like because I was like prepped for this episode, I went to just like I wonder if there's like a lot of Pokemon stuff out there to 3D print for fun Pokemon stuff. And oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Oh
That's
my
a
goodness, there's
wall.
so much. There's like every Pokemon you could ever imagine. Like look at how good these are.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Like
those
this
are
is
really
from
good.
the new game, Kaijimon Past Lizard.
I
I've
think
been riding around on him.
I think I
A lot.
recognize that icon for that. Is it Patreon? I'm trying to, or my Menu Factory store.
Mm.
Who is it? Is it?
It's from Kaijumon is the
Oh,
account.
okay. Okay.
So I think this is their whole stick. And
Cool.
like there's even more out there than just this, and it's just crazy how much like I thought like when I was looking for I think there's more Pokemon stuff you can get a hold of hardly than there used to be easily obtainable like Warhammer 40K stuff,
Probably
honestly.
my nephew does FDM printing a lot locally, and they make tons of Pokemon, like big Pokemon. Oh, they have adorable Potter plants that are like little like what's the guy, the turtle, not the turtle thing, the one that has the flower coming out of him. I don't remember his name.
Bulbasaur?
Is that who it is? Yeah, yeah, it is. They make them flower planters that have Bulbasaur. Like
Oh yeah, those are really cute.
they do those on 3D printers.
Like it's the number one. It's the number one marketing property in the world. Like no joke.
Yep.
It dwarfs Mickey Mouse. It long since eclipsed Mario. It is simply it is the number one intellectual property as far as monetization goes in the entire freaking world.
Yep.
And there's a reason for it.
And there is fantastic RPGs based on it.
Mhm.
There's a Monster Tamer one from Names Games / it's Kevin Glusik's rig,
Mhm.
and then I know there's a 5e conversion that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, our friends over at Roll for Combat did a whole
Oh yeah, Eldamon.
expansion for 5e. Yeah, the
I
Eldamon
backed
stuff.
that. I haven't seen anything from it yet, but I have backed it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I probably need to go download my PDFs or something. Blasted Semaphage says, I think there are a few superhero RPGs out there. There's quite a few of them.
There's Mutants and Masterminds, which is like one of the biggest.
And best in my opinion. It's really good.
It's really great. Disclaimer: I've been published under Mutants and Masterminds.
Disclaimer: I haven't, even though I tried.
Oh. Yeah, I worked with Crystal on a adventure called Bite Club, which was about teenage vampires that aren't really vampires. They just got vampires-like powers, and then rated a Hot Topic and like
rated a Hot Topic. Yes, yes, that is beautiful. That is beautiful. Yeah. In my Mutants and Masterminds game, there is a. It's actually my friend, the one who runs it. There's a chain called Creative Concepts. We haven't ever defined what it is, but they're just like in the back of every battle, there's a Creative Concepts store that's just getting trashed because, so Hot Topic's better though. I like
it. So the topic you suggested we talk about today was how 3D printing has changed how we get ready for conventions.
I think just changed how we view conventions as a whole. Because it really has, because we're getting ready to go to Gen Con. If people listening to this did not know that, we will be at Gen Con. We will be kind of on the civilian side of the thing, which is weird for both of us probably, because I think we're used to going and working there.
Right.
But we'll be at Gen Con, and my psychology has totally shifted, and it's almost entirely because of 3D printing.
Yeah, I think so. And I've got kind of some like tangential thoughts to this, but I want to follow your path for a little bit first. So how's your thoughts changed? Like, I know that I'm going to spend a whole heck of a lot less money than I usually do.
Right. Like normally, and I like Gen Con. It took me forever to get there. I have a whole big blog post about it somewhere if you really want to see it. But getting to Gen Con was like a lifetime achievement for me. It took like 30 years to finally go to Gen Con because of all these weird things that happen. I finally get to Gen Con, and it basically turned out to be a shopping trip. Like, that's what it was the first time I went. It's amazing. There's just overwhelm. Everybody's trying to get attention. Everybody's pushing their Kickstarter. Everybody's talking about their game. And if you're trying to do that yourself too, it's like screaming into this just massive chaos, right? And I don't actually recommend doing that, by the way, but that's a whole different topic. What I did though is I went and I ended up shopping. I ended up spending a ton of money. And so the next year, I prepped for that. That was what it was. Save more money, be ready to spend money, be ready to get stuff, get swag, get t-shirts, whatever. And so and I actually took friends that time, and we all went and we spent a ton of money, and it was a big shopping trip with a couple games and a couple previews and a couple new, things, but it was razzle dazzle time. Right. And to me now,
I think people need to understand just how much stuff is available at Gen Con. Like, Gen Con's the biggest gaming convention in the North America. It's got like 70,000+ people show up to this thing.
Right.
And all of the major tabletop companies show up, with the exception of one Mr. Wizards of the Coast. But Games Workshop and everybody will be there. And the selection of stuff that you're going to have available there, it's basically as if the entire internet's worth of geekdom was available at your tip, and they accept cash.
Yes, at a slight markup, in my opinion. But
yeah, it's not a way. You do not save money at Gen Con.
The only way to save money at Gen Con, since we're bringing up this really quick, because of course I'm cheap. Sunday afternoon in the dealer's room. People want to sell their stuff. So if you want to go and try to play haggle games, that's your day to go to Gen Con's dealer room. But all the good stuff's picked over by then, so it's a crapshoot. Anyway, so it's a shopping trip. It was. And, it's also for you and me. We have a lot of friends in the industry, and so it's a time to see people we haven't seen for a long time. So I'm, of course, still looking forward to that. But I am not going with that shopping energy this time. I'm much more going to get inspired. I want to see the new stuff that's coming out. I want to plan. I want to get that shape of what the next year is going to look like. Way more than I am about, buying the new war game, or buying, like, as much as I would like to get a set of Gloomhaven, I don't even know how I get it home. It's so big, like assuming I can afford it. What's that? I'm flying, man.
Oh,
yeah, I'm flying with a carry-on. So, yeah, there's no Gloomhaven box shipping back or coming with me home. So, Gin Can't is also a savings alternative. Sure.
Yeah. For me, it's like it's been so long since I've done a Gen Con to just be a civilian at it. I have worked Gen Con every year for most of my life at this point. So it's really hard for me to think about it any other way. Like even going this time, like sure I'll be going as quote unquote a civilian, but I'm absolutely going to be having my industry hat on, and I'm going to be looking for stories. I'm going to be talking with I can't walk out of Gen Con without like making like 4 or 5 backroom deals.
Oh, sure.
That's how it goes.
And I'm not going to be disingenuous. I'm going to be talking to people because I'm gearing up to relaunch my campaign setting as a Tales of the Valiant 5e adjacent thing. And so I get it. That'll happen. And I would be lying if I said it wouldn't. But that the personal experience, the consumer experience is a very different animal for me this year, for sure. Herberto asked us, is there anything we're looking forward to seeing? And I am looking forward to seeing the previews of a bunch of new games because, as we know, there was the OGL thing earlier this year. And we whacked the head of the Hydra that is tabletop gaming. And the Hydra grew a bunch of new heads. And we are going to be seeing so many new games. You both have Critical Role's new games coming out. You have Tales of the Valiant. You have something from MCDM, Matt Colville's company. It's going to be different, apparently, maybe a little more bespoke. But there's just going to be a bunch of new games. And that's just like the big names, right? I know about every dog and pony has a Heartbreaker like on tap right now, right? And
this is the time to shoot your shot. Like this is it. This is your opportunity.
And so more, I'm looking for that thing, that divergence. What's going to happen in the future? This is the beginning, right? It's the spark, and that's what I'm going for, is to kind of get that sniff of the first shape of tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm also like, that's happening on the gaming side of things, but I'm also expecting to see a ton of innovation because of 3D printing. It has allowed for. Okay, so there's not a ton of money in gaming, especially as indie gaming. Like, you're really reliant on the tools you have available to you.
This is me nodding very much for our listeners because you can't see it, but I am nodding a lot.
But suddenly, a ton of indie developers have now had access to rapid prototyping. And we are seeing it in some of the things that are being developed, and new ways of thinking about how these products look. Like we're talking about Cast and Play from last year, the Terrain Essentials line, which has got a new set coming out soon, Exteriors, where they like completely shifted the idea of what gaming terrain should look like. Where like, hey, let's just do these really fast pre-prepared bunches that you can like rapidly throw out on your table and have it very bespoke and have a really great looking game table and to solve the problem of a 3D game table looks great, but it takes you 10 years to put it on the table.
Yes, and kind of gets in the way. Like my players are very much moving towards one wall, half wall dungeons. That's what they want.
Yes.
They want to be looking inside the dungeon. They don't want it like it blocks line of sight. Also, because of our dear friends, people like I love them very much, but I'm gonna call out Arkville a little bit for their bases. I'm so glad they finally started doing those new bases. I know they're still not 100%.
Give up on
I won't.
Bases.
I won't. They're awful. The early sets.
They're awesome.
They're awesome, but they are like 7 inches wide for a large figure. They're terrible. They're cool because they're exploding cascades of tombstones and the vampires surfing in on corpses. But no, no, I don't want that for my dungeon. I want a little, functional stand. So I always swap out bases on almost everything now. It's all like, who's becoming one of my favorite base people? This is Battle Yak. Battle Yak has really flavorful bases, and they come with bit packs usually. And they're just really functional, just a little motifing. I'll also say Cobra Mode does them too. And speaking of which, Cobra Mode, if you did not know, just added a bases only tier to their Patreon.
Really?
Yes. So it's cheaper and you get all their custom bases. And Cobra Mode has gorgeous bases, by the way, if you don't know that. Definitely go check them out. I was talking to some people about it in their Discord just the other day. But yeah, so new Patreon tier that they're working on. I hope that is out. I should double check, but I think it is. I know they're talking about it for sure. Anyway, that's coming. Battle Yak also. Battle Yak's just a great value overall. Those kits are amazing. But those are my bases because they're very flavorful and they fit. I don't have to tear the walls off of my dungeon to put, Galadria, the vampire surfer, on her tombstone cascade.
I mean, I really dig it. I do think that if you're going to have like a sculpted base, it needs to kind of fit within the footprint. I don't like it when minis are, regardless of reasons, I don't like it when miniatures like fly off and everything, which is like one of the things about like Lord of the Prince dragons is I'm glad he always like provides the dragons in two poses. One is like the normal like pose where the dragon is like humongous wings spread and doing all that looks awesome on your game shelf. And then like there's the gameplay friendly version where the dragon's like tucked in a little bit, staying on his base.
I think Dragon Trappers learned that too also, right? Like I don't remember that Eldritch Dragon that I did a couple months ago. It's on that toppled tower and it's kind of perfectly still lines up. And again, if you're going to go big, if you're going to do weird, you're going to do drama, go vertical, please. Go up. Because it's easier to fit up than it is sideways.
Yeah, absolutely. Go up.
Go up.
Like whatever you're doing, it needs to fit within your base print because like ultimately these also need to be played. Like if this is meant to be a shelf decoration statue, go wild.
Yeah, go nuts with your bust. If you want to like blow it up like 500% and add all sorts of bibbly bobs to your bust, great. I'm not going to print that anyway. I love you, but I'm not going to ever print a bust. It's not going to happen.
It's a great way to learn painting faces.
No. You know what? This is the scale of the face I have to deal with right here. You see it? She doesn't even have a paint on this one because it was supposed to be painted by somebody else. This is a weird thing, by the way. My players do not paint their minis. It makes me sad. Anyway.
It's a comment from Herberto. Says, although some epic stuff is available, I tend to prefer chunky and survivable gaming pieces. That is another thing. Renders look great when they're true scale and the swords are razor thin and the halves of the spears are exactly as wide as they should be and it looks graceful and it's standing on one pinky toe and it's got a wave of energy floating behind it suspended by a dream.
I'm looking at you, Heroes Infinite.
This stuff will shatter the second someone coughs in its direction and it's not a great gaming piece. Don't do that. Like I get on the freaking GW plastic for this. They do have a lot of models that are like that.
This little fairy here, this is like a Dryad fairy piece that's like a Woodboss fairy, is from Monolith. Oh, she's so fragile. She had 6 sisters.
Oh,
she has 1 now.
There's like, I forget who did the set, but it was like a set of cavalry I printed. Where like literally like the very tip of one hoof was all that anchored the entire mounted armored horse to the base.
Yeah.
So many of them broke. The
Umber Hulks, the epic Umber Hulks, which are super chonky and big classic Umber Hulks. One of them is balancing on a foot. I'm like, really, guys?
Umber Hulk demands to have the fist pounding the ground.
Right. And to be fair, they do have their other pose where it's like smashing the flagstones.
Right.
So even though it's like it's super overextended and imbalanced, that piece of contact makes it perfect for basing. It's great.
And speaking of walls that you might not want, Dungeon X like this is another example I wanted to point out of like really innovative stuff that 3D printing's provided. Because I like 2D printing and paper
Mhm.
craft stuff. I like 3D printing.
And this is a hybrid,
this
right?
is a hybrid approach. This is Lord Zess Works has a Kickstarter coming out with like a really brilliant idea of these dungeons that are put together by 2D printing walls, which means super customizable. It
Right.
means like you can just get all sorts of textures and stuff like to make exactly what you need. That's one of the big
And they
reasons I
look
love
really
2D
solid.
printing.
If you're just
Yeah,
listening to this, these are really beautifully rendered.
right. And then the columns, which has 4 slits decorated into them, so they look good even when there's nothing slotted into them, uh, basically form the corners and the intersections where these walls would go. And one of the other reasons I like about this is if you were going to do half walls, or first you could just print half size walls to put into
Mhm.
those gaps. It's
Sure.
super easy. Like this is infinitely customizable. Like that's one of the biggest reasons I like this concept.
Mhm.
And secondly, if you're just doing one wall or back walls, then you could still put the pillars down to mark where the room corners are.
Yep, yep. And I also will throw out like I know a lot of people who really want to get into 3D printing and are really willing to like go the extra mile for their minis. But if you don't have the time to like print and paint up a bunch of FDM or do resin wall segments or whatever you're going to do, or buy, something super expensive like Dwarven Forge, this is a fantastic looking alternative, and you can save your painting time for the minis.
Also, this would print because all your 3D printing are these little columns, resin or FDM, both
Yeah.
friendly. If all you have is like an old Mars that has like a
Yep.
very tiny build plate, you could still print like 20 of these dang things in one go.
Yep.
Like you will have your dungeon up super fast with this setup. It's a Kickstarter that's launching soon. We don't have the exact date or the pricing, but just this idea is brilliant.
Yeah. Well, and looking at it, like they look like they might be supportless even. Is the angle?
Those are absolutely supportless.
Yeah. So like even easy to print. Oh, I didn't see the wood thing.
Yeah, so they've got wood and cavern theme and different types of dungeons. And yeah, this is going to be awesome. I am absolutely like, unless it's like stupidly ridiculously overpriced, I'm down on this one.
Yeah.
Like this will get like a dungeon up in a hurry, and more importantly, that dungeon will collapse and fit in a file card.
Yeah, that is a con-travelable dungeon, which is something I need as someone who publishes and wants to do events for when I do releases. That is a very publishable. Yeah, con-travelable. I can't talk tonight. It's a good product. I'm excited.
Yeah, and I'm definitely wanting to I want to see the half-height version of this.
Yeah,
because like if nothing else, I could totally customize it in Blender and
I was about to say
Photoshop.
Are they PDFs or something? Because you could totally shift the color palettes and stuff in those.
Yeah, they're pitching it as a you print everything thing here, which might force me to buy a new 2D printer because my one is having my color laser is having some age problems, and I haven't replaced it lately, and I'm doing so much stuff that it would just I can justify getting it.
Yeah. Speaking of printer technology, I think we finally got a refillable that doesn't use cartridges anymore. Ooh. So maybe that would be something to use that for. But yeah, that looks like a promising way to go.
And just like you wouldn't even have to paint it. Just print it in the right color resin for the columns.
Yep.
If you want to give it a wash, give it a wash.
I would still paint it. But yeah, but it's also a lot easier to batch paint those columns.
Mm-hmm.
It would be
just
so much
dry
easier.
brushing and
then just pop in your walls. Yeah. Oh, that is seductive because I have a pile of Dungeons and Lasers, as people know, which I adore. I love if you're going to go for cheap, paintable, form cast many terrain stuff. I would go with them. Speaking of the terrain stuff, because we did call out that Cast and Play Terrain Essentials exteriors.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I definitely want everybody to listen to this who is in chat, and anybody who's listening to us on release day. Through the 13th, you can do 50 underscore terrain, I think it is, and it gets you 50% off. 50% off the campaign.
I think it's the previous campaigns.
Is it? Oh, it is. Okay, you're right. Okay.
Still, that's a great deal because those are
two
of the best campaigns ever made.
Although, anyway, so there's a sale on it. I just wanted that since it's time limited. It's in the conspicuous Prime window, even though it's nothing to do with
it's
Prime.
It's a coupon I can't use because I bought both campaigns.
Yeah, so did I. So did I.
Yeah.
It's true.
I do not regret. We'll probably buy next one too. It's crazy. And I really I'm glad that these their terrain campaigns are continuing, because man, that was some of the best thing Cast and Play did, and the fact that they're not doing them with their monthly sets really makes me sad.
So sad.
Oh yeah, like I would like it really is the one reason I stopped my Cast and Play subscription after
it is absolutely the reason I dropped it,
because the minis are amazing, and I printed several of their minis and I love them to death, and I probably should resub because their minis are just so great. But the terrain and the minis was just too good of a deal for me to cancel.
It's true.
But I understand we're in the minority. Like people, they focused on resin printable terrain. That's evidently a small market.
It was such a good idea, though.
It really was. They did so great.
Speaking of which, if anybody else wants to make it, those pegs don't look too hard to match indirectly. Just saying.
I mean, they were just dungeon sticks. It's not like they had a great idea. Like it's not an original idea.
It was just a slightly more customized version of it.
Yeah, it's in a really nice way to do it for sure.
But the other reason it's changed my viewpoint of conventions.
Okay.
We have these 3D printers. We have all this new material, these sprouting hydra of games. And it's happening in wargaming too, right?
Right.
Conventions are where you're going to meet the people you're actually going to play with. Like this is where you find your communities. And I love Gen Con, but I actually recommend your local gaming convention for this. Like go to your close, like we have a convention, SaltCon or BryceCon. There's a couple Utah-based ones. I would go to your local convention for this, because this is where you're going to get those games. And obviously you got your shops and stuff, but not every shop is printed friendly. We know this. I'm blessed because I'm in ridiculously gifted all these game shops around me. There are 2 local stores that are very 3D printing friendly, but there are that are not. We also have tons of Warhammer stores in the area, and obviously you can't use 3D printed. You get, even the customers get on you if you come in with the 3D print in those stores, which is wild. Anyway, so that's the other thing I am looking forward to when I go to conventions now is finding my people, finding that community, because that's how we're going to play together, right?
And there's the other definitely shifting where before when I would go to the conventions, and because first Pathfinder was my game. And
mine too for quite a while.
Yes. Yeah. And so I was always going to these conventions to get the cool accessories and things to do that. But now I'll still will be tempted by really cool accessories and stuff, but less so.
Yep.
But now I'm interested in games to play with all these cool toys that I get infinite amounts of from the Magic Box.
Yeah. Well, and since we can use our Magic Boxes to time travel. So I'm actually also interested in old games, and that is something that is fun at Gen Con and other conventions. You can go and find stuff that you missed, and now you can go get the rulebook from whatever edition of Warhammer you liked the best, and then you can go get your Titan Forge set, and you can print and play your old hammer. You can do these things. We are not contained anymore. We can do the thing that we wanted to do when we were kids and couldn't afford. We can time travel back and do it now, which I think is darn cool. Alex says there's such a weird flex. I have so many local gaming stores. It is a weird flex, but it's also absolutely true. I don't think I can go 20 blocks in any direction without hitting another game store anymore.
And Herberto also says it's the surprises you don't expect to find at conventions as well is part of the fun, and that is absolutely true.
Absolutely true.
I love first, it recharges my batteries. Also, I also will go to these cons, hit up a bunch of seminars and learn while I'm there on different topics, and also I will be hitting up a lot of the queer community gaming stuff while I'm there too, which is I'm not completely alone over here in Eastern Kentucky, but it's just it helps to just go to a space where everybody around you has a shared interest in
I mean,
way to
you find your community, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Blasted Simiflange says, except for D&D, Or Magic the Gathering blesses Semifledge. No time travel. They'll send Pinkertons.
Oh my gosh.
Time traveling Pinkertons, he says.
I thought that maybe that's what had happened, because who expected the Pinkertons to still be a thing?
Well, it was a Magic set from the future, so they brought criminal enforcers from the past. Yeah, that's wild. Sometimes the reality. Yes, I'd also like to see more Magic the Gathering inspired minis, by the way, but that's a whole different shenanigan. Yeah, I'm even wondering my Elish Norn, because of course Elish Norn is basically a hive monster herself, exoskeleton and claws.
I would ask if we had any shout outs, but it sounds like we've shouted out all episode. Do you have any more?
Do I have any more? I do, but it's not exactly mini related, but it is something I'm passionate about. Is that okay? It's gaming related.
Sure. Of course.
I like gaming options and I love psionics. And today was the launch day of Night Vision Creative's Kickstarter for their new Scion system for 5e compatible. So if you are in that narrow but passionate community of Scion fans, Sonics fans, whatever, you like superpowers in D&D, that Kickstarter started today and it looks pretty rad. So how about you?
I don't have anything to shout out to right now. I kind of did it all throughout the episode. It was like this cool dungeon thing, cast and play, all that jazz.
Oh yeah, sure. Fair enough.
I kind of shouted my outs already.
Alex says, have they thrown the One Ring MTG card? They did find the One Ring if you're staying peripheral to that.
For any of our listeners who don't understand, could you tell us what this whole One Ring thing was?
Yeah. So one of the cool things that's going on in Magic the Gathering right now, because I'm a big Magic the Gathering nerd also, because all the nerds, they released Lord of the Ring, the partnership with the Tolkien estate, and did a Lord of the Ring themed set. It's gorgeous. It plays really smooth. It's one of the best draft experiences I've ever had in MTG. And it is super popular, but they did a one of serialized One Ring card, literally one card that you were going to get in a random collector pack. Now, it was interesting because the collector pack verbiage was not present on all marketing, and I find that yucky. But anyway, but it was found. So a lot of people had like suspicions that it was going to be gone forever or whatever. But it was found and purchased for, I believe, $2 million.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so because there was a bounty offered for it before the set even hit the ground.
Right.
And someone actually did get it, pull it, and take it in to the people who offered it. It was graded as a 9-point because it's foil. And if you know anything about Magic the Gathering cards, foil cards often warp. And it is slightly bent. It is slightly curvy. But it is a slightly curvy 9-point graded $2 million Magic card.
Yeah, one of one.
One of one, serialized.
Now, this isn't the only One Ring card. It's just a special version of the One Ring card.
Oh, David says that he didn't sell it yet. I swore he did. Oh. Okay, that is interesting. Well, anyway, I know that it's been offered, and I thought it was accepted. But Google that and confirm yourself, I guess. But I'm sure it's going to be. Yes, they did do One Ring cards that are just normal One Ring cards. And you can get a foil one. And there are other serialized cards in the set. My understanding is they did a serialized series of Dwarven rings, and they used the lore of Tolkien. So I'm assuming there might be 3 serialized Elven rings. I don't know. But they have alternate art with like different like languages and stuff on them. And it was kind of neat. It's a great set, though. It's fantastic. And it's also brought a whole bunch of new Tolkien fans in from Magic the Gathering nerds who were just waiting to be catalyzed into Tolkien. And it's brought a whole bunch of Tolkien nerds into Magic the Gathering. And you know me, I love it when our nerd sauce is all mixed together and we become like Voltron of nerds. Anyway.
All right. Well, that... on the Voltron of nerds, I don't think I can come up with a better way to end the podcast. So if you want to find out more of our stuff, you do so over at printyourgames.com, where you'll find links to all of our socials and past episodes. Until next time, I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Parent.
I'm Kristen Sowards, also known as Seventh Mastery, and don't forget to use your screen protector.